Good afternoon, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Good afternoon, Sister Sylvia Bay. Before we start our afternoon talk, we shall do a preliminary homage to the Buddha.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
This afternoon we have Sister Sylvia Bay with us to do another last Saturday talk on Bhikkhunupassaya Sutta.
Okay, today is going to be our last session, and I think we should start with a little bit of sitting meditation, sort of a quiet moment to reflect on our own journey, our own practice and our own journey. Dhamma is a journey into understanding our mind and experiencing the teaching that the Buddha had left behind. So we will spend a moment to sit quietly, just to enjoy the teaching in a very simple way. Okay? So can I invite everyone to close your eyes, sit back, feel comfortable. Before you start any meditation, the form must feel that it is comfortable. Shouldn't be slouching, but it doesn't have to be ramrod straight. Just sit comfortably, okay? And I will take you through what we can do in meditation. As you sit very comfortably, be aware of the contact points of your form. So where you are seated, what are the points touching another surface? So scan slowly through your body. Scan slowly through where your palm rests on each other, where the back of your form rests against the surface, where your legs, if they are folded, where do they rest? Scan slowly across your form. Go through the body. Be familiar with the body first. Then as you look at the body, you may observe a certain stability, firmness present. As you look at your body, become aware of breathing. Breathing is done by the body for itself. Accept the breathing. It's just present. Breathing is present. rising, falling, rising, falling. It's a natural process. As you're aware of this breathing, you may observe quiet ease. It's a little pleasure, feeling good, feeling comfortable. Nothing there, just the body breathing on its own, your mind observing it, feeling comfortable. As you observe the mind and the body, feeling tranquil, feeling comfortable, feeling good, turn your mind to aspiration, your aspiration. I have a short one here, which I will read for myself and for you. Reflect on the words, and if you identify with the words, feel the words. I am a seeker of the Buddha's Dhamma, and in this life, I walk in search of the Dhamma path. To the end of this life, I am dedicated to upholding the Dhamma practice. I will try my best. I may or I may not see the Dhamma and taste the Dhamma in this life. But I will never stray from this path, which has been the most beautiful gift from our teacher, the Buddha. I am not perfect, but as I try to understand the practice and try to uphold wholesome speech and action, I know I've become kinder, gentler, more considerate of others, more respectful. I still have anger arising sometimes, but anger dissipates fast. I harbor no ill will of anyone, and I wish no one harm. I may have occasional arising of wanting, but I know the importance of moderation. I'm learning to be content Contentment is joyous and peaceful. My life has been blessed. I live in a place where I feel safe, where my loved ones can walk safely, where we can take care of each other. We live in hope. We have a future. And now I have DHAMMA. Life cannot be more blessed. I can't express my gratitude enough. The joy that I feel right now, I wish that all my loved ones could experience this joy as I feel. I wish that all sentient beings can feel the joy that I feel, so that they too can live free from fear, free from pain, free from suffering, and one day they have the wisdom to come to the DHAMMA. As you sit quietly and experience the joy and gratitude, feel the joy, feel it deeply, and then in your mind, make the aspiration. May I wish all beings in all directions, young and old, born, unborn, seen, unseen. May they all be well and happy. May they all be free from suffering, from pain, from fear. May they all live in peace and harmony. And may they all feel joy in blessings, in the blessings that they have. As you feel deeply, with gratitude, take a mental bow before the Buddha. You can transfer your merits quietly, and you can come out of meditation. I will give you all a moment to come down to earth. Okay? If everyone is ready, we can start today's talk. It's a relatively short talk, just 13 slides. Actually, I think the actual talk itself is only 12 slides or 11 slides. But we are covering pretty profound topics today, profound. The talk today is taken from a sutta, Bhikkhunupassaya Sutta, the Bhikkhuni quarters, or the Nuns quarters, where they stay, okay? It's just a location. The talk is not about the nuns' quarter. The talk is about meditation. And it is, I said earlier that it's very profound because we can see this talk at different levels. For the first time, I'm entitling a slide a teaser. And the reason is because I'm going to drag this out, tease everyone a little. And I'm not giving away what we're going to cover. Just know that it's about meditation, okay? Now, I said that at one level, it seems straightforward enough. It's Buddha's guidance on meditation, and he gave practical and useful instructions on how to overcome rather common problems. Rather common problems even for experienced meditators, okay? That's at one level. And you will see that throughout the talks, throughout the sutta, it seems to be covering that. Except that if you read very carefully between the lines, if you read very carefully, you may discern that there is another level. There is a rather intriguing point embedded in the sutta about the real purpose of meditation. And I'll be very honest, I spent a week staring at this sutta. It's very short. The sutta itself is very short. I spent a week staring at it until my technical crew here goes, when is the sutta coming? And I couldn't deliver it because I knew that there's something there which I was missing. And honestly, I didn't spot it until last night. So I spent 1 week staring, and only late last night I spotted it. So that is why it was late in coming. So I will invite everyone to see if you guys can spot it. Okay? That's the challenge for today. Huh? Okay, the sutta proper. This is a rather unusual start point because in many suttas, the Buddha would actually say where he was. Or rather, the sutta will say where the discourse was delivered. But here, in this particular sutta, you will notice there's no venue. It started in the middle of nowhere. You only know the time. Okay? The time was morning. In the morning, Venerable Ānanda, I say Ānanda because A has an A thunder on it, so it's Ānanda. He dressed, he took his bowl and robe, and he approached the Bhikkhuni's order. This translation was done by Bhikkhu Bodhi. So any Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, you will see the word Bhikkhuni and Bhikkhu. And he sat down at a prepared seat. And a number of bhikkhunis then approached him, paid homage, sat to the side, and said to him, Venerable Ānanda, a number of us, dwelling with our minds, well established in the 4 establishments of mindfulness. 4 establishment of mindfulness. They said, we can meditate. That's essentially what they are saying. We meditate very well. Our mind is established in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and we perceive successively loftier stages of distinction. Meaning to say that they sat, and they sat very well, and they could feel that their mind was rising. So if you're doing your meditation well, and you are somewhat on a roll, it's smooth, it's a smooth meditation, you will find that the mind seems to be lifting. So this is what they were experiencing. Ānanda replied, so it is, sister. It may be expected of anyone, sisters, whether bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, who dwell with their mind well established in the 4 establishments of mindfulness, that this person will perceive the loftier stages of distinction. So up until this point, fairly straightforward. Conversation between the nun's favorite monk. Okay, he's a favorite. They like him very much. apart from the fact that Ānanda had been credited, and definitely he played that role, had been credited for the establishment of the nun order. Apart from that, he was also a very patient, very generous teacher. And he always goes there, and he used to go there to help them with their practice, meditation. He gave them time. Many of the other monks did not want to associate with the nuns, but Ānanda was willing to do that, and that's why Ānanda had been seen as more liberal-minded. You know, in our modern terminology, he's liberal-minded. He's a leftist. It was prepared for change and new ideas, new way of doing things. He was comfortable with that. But what Ānanda did was not always popular with the monks. We know for that, for a fact, because subsequently there were criticisms of him for helping to set up the nun order. Okay, but this is the good time. This is the period where the Buddha was still around, and the nun community was vibrant, and he was always helping them. Okay, I said here that the nuns clearly enjoyed their meditation, hence the words loftier stages of distinction. It means the mind was rising comfortably. The words that I want you to pay attention to are 4 foundations of mindfulness, or in this case, he calls it 4 establishment of mindfulness. In other words, there were 4 objects that were used to help the mind anchor mindfulness. And these 4 objects, which I've written in Pali, they are kaya, kaya is body, vedana, feelings, citta, the mind, dhamma. Depending on how it's translated, some have called mind states, some have called it phenomenal. I prefer to keep the word dhamma. Dhamma, because there is a reason for that. Buddha's use of this word. You see the word CMN10, DN22, Majjhima Nikaya, Book of Middle Length Saying, number 10. It's on Satipatthana Sutta. It is called the Sutta, the Discourse on the 4 Foundations of Mindfulness. So for those of you who are very interested in meditation, do check them out. Majjhima Nikaya 10 or Digha Nikaya 22, Maha Satipatthana Sutta. Okay? Now, I will just say a little bit here. If you need to, take notes of these points, because subsequently they will come up again. Okay? When we talk about kaya, the body, in the Theravada context, you always, Theravada Sutta, this sutta found in the Theravada Pali canon, started off with Anapanasati, which is breathing, right? Putting the mindfulness on the breathing, long breath, short breath, and it goes on, right? And then it goes on to posture, to decaying body parts, body decay, to your daily activity. That's the idea. But this is not always the case. There are other suttas, like in the Agamas, where it doesn't go with this flow. Be that as it may, the key points to remember is you are using attention on the form, attention on form to anchor mindfulness. Keep mindfulness on the form, okay? And later in this sutta, the Buddha actually explained a bit of details on how to do that. I would like you all to pay attention to the words. Many people are fixated about where to put the attention. Is it here, there, breathing, this? Those are not important. Pay attention to the ones that the Buddha said was important. And I will highlight to you what they are in a while, okay? So kaya is the form. Vedana, we say feeling, but actually there are 2 sets. 2 sets. Bear that in mind. Huh? Painful, pleasant, neutral, those are the three. Pleasant, painful, neutral. So happy, sad, or happy means it's pleasurable. Painful is when it's not pleasurable, instead it's the other end, it hurts. And then the ones that you don't quite remember because it's neutral. And I said 2 sets. One set is on the carnal type of pleasure, the karma base. Your taste, your touch, you enjoy that. You experience the world. This is the material world. But the second set is spiritual. So there's the carnal base and the spiritual base. Pleasant, painful, neutral. 2 sets. Bear this in mind, okay? The third one is on chitta, the mind. There are a few critical points to bear in mind here. When they talk about the mind, you are looking at lobha, dosa, moha, greed, anger, delusion, and then you have confusion, expansion, contraction. Those are the key elements. There is a reason for these. And the last one on Dhamma, there is a formula there. You must remember the formula. Okay? I will go into that later. Under Dhamma, Nivaranas first, the hindrances, the aggregates, the 6 sense bases, the bojjhangas, the noble truths, the practice. Okay? These are the key elements. Don't worry if it sounds like Greek to you. I just need you to be aware of these points. Later on, I will repeat them again. Okay? So, here the nuns were using 4 foundations of mindfulness to anchor their practice, their meditation. They are doing meditation. Okay? For those of you who think that 4 foundations of mindfulness is just to build mindfulness, this is where you're wrong. For sure, you can use it to build samadhi. Okay? Ānanda then instructed, exhorted, inspired, gladdened the bhikkhuni with a Dhamma talk. Then he rose from his seat, he left, he went to look for food. He walked for alms. This is the first time you hear in Savatthi. So this event took place in Savatthi. And because the bhikkhunis are already there, the order had been set up, I'm guessing that this is the later part of the Buddha's dispensation. Okay? Which means that he had already been teaching a lot of people on how to meditate. After Ānanda had finished his alms, he went back, he paid his respect to the Buddha, and he reported. So my guess is Ānanda at this point was already his attendant, which means this is likely to be the last 20 plus years of the Buddha's sasana. Buddha was an older man. He became the Buddha at 35, last 20 years, this is probably 50s, okay? 40s, 50s. This is a middle-aged Buddha, not the black hair young man Buddha. Listen to what Buddha said. The Blessed One said, pay close attention. So it is, Ānanda, so it is. It may be expected of anyone, Ānanda, whether bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, who dwells with a mind well established in the 4 establishment of mindfulness, that such a one will perceive successfully loftier stages of distinction. So you may be saying, what is so special? He's just repeating what Ānanda had said. No, pay attention to the words. Here it would appear that the Buddha agreed with Ānanda because he was repeating Ānanda's words, right? Would you say that the Buddha was approving or not? There are enough technical clue here to reply to my question. Would you say that, given what the Buddha had said, would you say that he was approving or disapproving? Approving. Anybody disagree? Everyone is quite happy, huh? So it seemed like Buddha approved, right? Yes, Ānanda. Sorry. Yes, Ānanda, he said. Yes, Ānanda. It may be expected. Okay, 2 points that I want to make, to highlight here. No gender bias in terms of spiritual attainment. This is a critical point in Buddhism. You see, for those who believe that the Buddha was partial towards gender, male chauvinism or something, this is all wrong. In fact, this is very unusual. For you today in the 21st century, this kind of statement is no big deal. But in the time of the Buddha, to say whether bhikkhu or bhikkhuni will attain same spiritual attainment, this is radical, big time. Because in those days, it was assumed that the woman cannot realize spiritually. It was an assumption. In fact, the assumption then was you don't have a woman around when you practice because it will undermine other people's practice. That was a kind of assumption. That's why the women do not participate in some of the Vedic activities. They don't. But Buddha, by opening the Sangha to bhikkhunis, to nuns, was actually breaking a social taboo. Okay? And then this phrase, instructed, exhorted, inspired, gladdened. The idea here is, when it is a Dhamma talk, there should be points learned, things to learn, and points that inspire, that make you rejoice. So when you are listening to a Dhamma talk, hopefully, if it is a good talk, if it is successfully delivered, hopefully you will go away feeling that you have learned something, that you have grown in some ways, that you had been really inspired, that you want to go off and meditate, and you feel joyous. This is a stock phrase that you will find in many suttas pertaining to the Buddha's delivery. The fact that this was used for Ānanda's delivery then tells you Ānanda was a very good speaker. They used a description for Buddha on Ānanda. So it tells you the canon forefathers approve of Ānanda as a teacher. Okay? This is how you read between lines. Huh? Okay. Now you must use your psychic powers and imagine the words. Huh? This is where I would like you to pay close attention to the words. This is the Buddha saying, how? How do you do satipatthana properly? And there are few points here, okay? Contemplating the body in the body, kaya kaya nupasi, seeing the body as it is. This is what it means, huh? Seeing the body as it is, and then comes 3 plus 2 points. Atapi sampajano satima. Atapi has been translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi as ardent, very energetic, very earnest, very alert. Okay? Sampajano is a very important word, and I want to take a moment to explain it carefully. Here we say clearly comprehending. The idea here is, as you observe the form, you must be very clear what you're looking at and you understand it correctly. You must know you're looking at the form and you understand its nature properly. So what is it that you're supposed to understand of the form? Impermanence. It changes. Breathing, right? If you're looking at breathing, or you're looking at posture. Remember what I said earlier? Posture, breathing, your activity, and you look at decaying body. An element there is, this is form. Form changes. This is form. Form decays. This is form. Form is conditionally changing. Be aware of that. So sampajano is knowing it as it is, with the understanding, with the proper understanding of its true nature. Why is this phrase important? Because for many of us, when we look at form not with understanding, but with craving and attachment. When we look at form, we see how form is beautiful. We see the part that we like, then we disregard the ones that we don't like. So when we look at hair, we talk about hair being luscious and sweet smelling and I don't know what else, but we don't see it as dead cells and perpetually extending dead cells which turn gray at some fortuitous moment. We don't think of it like that. So our perception of form has always been colored by our biases, by our fascination, by our attraction, our attachment, okay? So clearly comprehending is the opposite of all of your natural habit towards form, all right? And the third one, mindful, meaning as you observe, the word satima has the element of remembering. If you pay attention, you will remember. If you do not pay attention, even if you just note and that's it, you will not remember because you didn't register properly. The word satima here means you must register properly and you remember. Okay? So these three elements, there is energy there is understanding, there is seeing it as it is. Understanding means seeing it as it is. If that form is changing, form is not attractive. Form is just is. Okay? And you remember what you observe. But the last, that line, I say 3 plus 2, that line there, having removed covetousness and displeasure. I kept the Pali word because I want to explain the Pali word. Abhijja means holding, clinging. Abhijja, coveting. I like it like this. I prefer it like this. I'm so enthralled with it. So there is a part in avidya, there is this clinging, wanting. So you look at your own mind, right? You look at how you look at form. Look at your own form. Fat, thin, must be this, let's go trim it. I don't know, polish nails. Is it quite polish nail? Not polish? Foul? Yeah, foul. The paint, foul. It's not, the nails are like your wall, you must paint and foul and do all kinds of funny things to it. So avidya is holding, clinging, craving, preferring. That's the idea. If you recall, when the Buddha talks about 10 unwholesomeness, the 3 pertaining to mind unwholesomeness, abhijja is one of them. Okay? This is abhijja. Coveting, wanting, preferring. Okay? Domanassa, grief. Strong word. Strong word. These are 2 strong words. Huh? Why did the Buddha use a word this strong? Because the same word appears for feeling, mind, and dhamma. Same word, abhijja domanassa. Meaning to say, the regular mind has a habit of clinging, and because it clings, it grieves. Because you have preferences, you would then have disappointment. you have expectations and desires, you will have the sadness and the disappointment that comes with not getting your expectations met. So, mindfulness, the fact that the Buddha repeated this, you think they don't know? Every one of them would have memorized Satipatthana. But why did the Buddha repeat the whole sentence here? Because this is significant. Okay? I will tell you why it is significant, but you think about it. Buddha said, while he is contemplating the body in the body, arising in him, based on the body, either a fever, parilaho means burning, fever, burning, pain. The idea here is a body that is uncomfortable. So it is not at ease. Remember earlier when you were sitting, I reminded all of you about your body being at ease. That's why. Because your body has to be at ease before the meditation can continue smoothly. Okay? So here the Buddha said, based on the body, maybe it's not feeling too good. The form itself is not feeling too comfortable. Or it is the mind having a problem. And the two common problems for people meditating are the mind wanting to fall asleep, or the mind getting too distracted, running all over with objects, drifting, thinking, cannot stabilize. Agree? Just for the record, everyone nods happily. So everyone is nodding here, right? So 3 of the most common problems faced by meditators: an uncomfortable body, a sluggish mind, the distracting, drifting one. So this is, as you can see, I'm so clever, I put a 1 here. This is point number 1. There is a second point. If that happens, the bhikkhu should then direct the mind, direct the attention towards some inspiring sign. Pasadaniye nimitte. A sign, nimitta is a sign. So a sign that is bright, clear. Pasada, bright, clear. A sign that promotes faith. Why faith? Because faith is the easiest for the monks, the easiest of the wholesome mental state for the monks to bring up. The point here, you remember when you were doing your meditation, I started talking about happiness and being happy, being joyous, feeling good. And I started talking a lot. I started talking, and some of you may say, what kind of meditation is this? Talk so much. You will know when you go along. Huh? You need the mind to feel light and joyous before the mind can stabilize. Okay? And here I gave you a sutta. It's called Agappasada Sutta, where the Buddha himself spoke of foremost kinds of faith on the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Guess what's, oh yeah, it's there. Eightfold Path. Give you the answer already. Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and the Eightfold Path. So for a Sangha member, a monk, knowing the practice, knowing what he has to do, you can imagine him feeling very inspired about his practice. Okay? I stress the point here. This is directed meditation, meaning you will. The word directed, which I will explain later, it means willing. You willing the mind towards an object. You drive it towards an object. And here the Buddha said, drive it towards objects that inspire faith, that brings up faith. Because, Buddha said, when he directs his mind towards inspiring sign, pamodja, gladness, is born. When he is gladdened, rapture is born. I will stop here and explain these two words. Gladness is just that sense of ease. Earlier on, I mentioned about the little joy that arises when you are sitting there quietly, and if your form is feeling comfortable, you might detect a little joy. That's pamodja. Okay? If you did detect that joy, if you had attended last week's class, you will remember that last week I spoke about going deep into the joy and letting it come up, letting it fill you. When it is filled, it will move on to the next stage automatically. Okay? All this is automatic. If you have to sit there and be joyous, it's wrong already. Your joy is hiccuping. Nobody gets very happy when they are hiccuping, okay? Joy must come naturally. So when you reflect, and that's why thinking is allowed in meditation, because you have to direct the mind towards an object, and this object are the inspiring signs. You think of the Buddha, you have to think. You have to reflect. These are the qualities of the Buddha. He was a Sambuddha, fully enlightened. He was well gone. He's a knower of world. There actually are words for your mind to go slowly through them. So if you're new to the practice and you're very keen on meditation, but you can't find, you say that when I put my mind on the breathing, that it kind of drifts all over, it's because you didn't do all these preparation work. For those of you who drive, you will know that once upon a time, you can't just get into a car, turn on the engine and drive. You have to actually heat the car up. Heat it up a bit for it to, and then after that you start to shift gear and your car moves, right? It's the same idea here. You do not sit, and then like a dog, your mind sits. It doesn't work like that. The mind will drift. The mind is disobedient most time. So you have to incentivize the mind. Give it incentive to settle. And you give it the incentive by actually giving the mind object that it likes and it feels good about. Practitioners typically feel very inspired by the Buddha. That is why there are all these Buddha rupas. And I always say choose a Buddha rupa that connects with you, so that when you look at it, you also feel happy. That's the idea, okay? Don't ask me, don't come up with a question that say, then we craving how? Wholesome craving, okay? For now, you are going to crave anyway. So let's keep it to a wholesome form, okay? Your mind goes into an object that it feels joy. The joy must come up spontaneously. If the joy comes out spontaneously, as you look at the joy, it will feel you. The feeling you up, that part is piti, because it will feel up so strong you start to get goose pimples and running sensations and all. That's piti, okay? When the mind is uplifted by the piti, body, kaya, body becomes tranquil. The body actually comes straight. You find yourself sitting up straight, but very comfortable. You feel very good. This is the body feeling comfortable. If in your meditation you find that you have joy, then the body feels tired. Your joy is not oomph enough. It should be oomph, and then it will go straight. Huh? One who is tranquil in the body experiences sukha. The English words are almost like thesaurus here. So I kept the Pali word to be able to explain a little bit more. Sukha is really it's subtle, but it is a deep sense of peace and happiness, deep sense of happiness. It's profound. It's been described as a profound happiness. It's not the ha ha ha, this is so funny happiness. It is not. It really is, I'm grateful to be alive happiness. Okay? And then, that is where one become, it is a verb, samadhiyati. The mind becomes concentrated. It's a verb. It is not a noun. It's not samadhi. Okay? So, just one point here. And again, if you're interested, look at last week's talk. With all the correct mental conditions, samadhi is a breeze. It's conditionally a reason, it's a breeze, okay? This is a slide that I will go very slowly because there are many important points here. You see that there are two translations, one in black and the other one in... There is a word for this. Cyan, right. One is black and the other one is cyan. Blue, light blue, sky blue. The black translation was done by Bhante Bhikkhu Bodhi. The second one by Ajahn Thanisaro. And this is the first time that I'm using Ajahn Thanisaro's translation because I think if you read the second one, you can understand the meaning better. Am I correct? Yes. Right? But now, then why did I put a Pali stanza there? Because I want to show you, actually, Bhante Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation was more precise. So means he. Patisamharati, this word here, patisamharati, withdraw, right? Without, indeed without, vitaka vicharati, no thinking, no examining, thinking, reflecting, basically mulling over. Vicharati is mulling over. This vittaketi is, it says reflect, considered like not very different from mulling over. One is just thinking straightforward. The other one is again and again and again. You keep going around and around the idea. Okay. So you see, so he withdraws the mind. There's something to examine, right? That's exactly the line there. Without thinking and without examining, he knows for himself mindfully, and he's happy. He knows. You see, the words, the Pali words are as translated. Without thinking, without thought or examination, inwardly mindful, this is inwardly mindful, happy. And the word here, sukha must mean is, I am happy. Asmi, I am happy. He knows. Spot on, precise. That's why I wanted to show you that it wasn't because of anything, but he was really very precise, the translation. Bhante Bhikkhu Bodhi. Okay? Now, what does this mean? Remember, the Buddha said that sometimes when you are meditating, the mind can't settle. It is feeling bodily uncomfortable, the mind is sleepy and it drifts. And the Buddha said, put your mind on an inspiring sign. Then when it triggers all the wholesome, positive mental states, samadhi is natural. So this is what's happened. He reflects us. He knows. He knew what he was doing. He knows. I wanted the mind to settle. So now my mind has settled. The purpose for which I've directed the mind has been achieved. So now my mind has settled. I can withdraw from that sign. That's what it means. I can now withdraw from the inspiring sign. And now I go back into looking at body as is. That was his intent. To be able to do satipatthana, mindfulness in the 4 establishments of mindfulness. This being body, using body to anchor mindfulness. Initially, he had trouble. So when you have trouble, Buddha said, don't worry. Go and direct your mind towards an object that can bring up wholesome, happy mental states. When that happens, your mind will start to settle by itself. Then you move away from your object and go back to looking at the body. This is what it means. This is directed meditation. Okay? So you look at, and I said, okay, this second line, actually, I was inspired by something which Ajahn Thanissaro said. I thought about it and I completely agree with him. His point was, if that state does not have vitaka vichara, then it is the second jhana. I am a bit more cautious. I will say it seems to imply that basically when the mind is joyous, because when the mind is joyous, what you have is piti and sukha. Piti and sukha without vitaka vichara makes it second jhana state. Okay? Now, they are jhanic factors, meaning to say, I don't know if you're really deep in jhana, you probably are not deep, maybe not deep, but the jhanic factors are there. If the jhanic factors are there, this mind is steady. It's steady enough to do the proper contemplation of the mind and body. Your 4 foundations of mindfulness, you can contemplate already. Your mind doesn't drift already. It is relatively still, relatively present. There is this joy that is running through it. There are other factors there which is not mentioned here. If it's really the jhanic factors, you will also have a sense of confidence. You kind of know that this is right. I feel good about this. This feels right. You will also have that assurance. Okay? Everyone okay here? Yes. The next slide is an easy slide because it repeats. So you will contemplate feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma, the 3 words ardent, attapi, clearly comprehending, sampajano, satima, having removed abhijja domanassa, covetousness and displeasure, in regard to the world. I am sorry, I forgot to explain this phrase. When you're talking about the world, what do you think it means? When you're talking about the world, the aggregates, the sense pleasures, the external environment, plus the internal environment, and therefore, when you're talking about the world, you're talking about the interaction of your mind, which is what Kim said, aggregates, and the objects of the world. The objects of the world can be what you experience through your sense bases or in the mind. I want you all to remember the word objects. Okay? So in regard to the world, it's always the objects. But it's your interaction with the objects. Okay? So he goes through, all the four foundations. Earlier was body, feeling, mind, Dhamma. And he can do the same thing, meaning if the mind struggles to settle, the mind can pick out a sign that gives it this inspiration, this joy. It's basically bright and light and happy, so that the mind latches onto it, is very happy with it, it swings with it, and then that's when the mind will still, okay? I translated a word here. There is development by direction. Panidaya is by direction as translated. Development is the word bhavana. Bhavana means cultivation, okay? And sometimes the word bhavana has been used to translate as meditation, but actually a much better word is cultivation, growth, okay? Why did I pick up this word to highlight? Because this word actually means having intention. We see the English word as directed, and your mind makes a certain assumption, right? You hear the word directed, you just assume that, oh, you steer. But actually, it means intended. Having intention, having desire. So, what it means is you having this intention to meditate, you choose an object and you use the object to help you achieve that result, the meditation. So a key element here is intention and desire. I want it like this, I hope to do it like this, I'm using this to do this. So translated directed is not wrong, but the idea underpinning this directed is intention. Because the next type of meditation is called undirected. Actually, it means no intention. Okay? Let me show you the next one. Take a moment to look at the words first. Okay? So that I can drink my water. Okay. You look at those words, huh? And how? Ānanda is their development without direction. The Pali word is apanidaya. Apanidaya. By the way, apanidaya not having intention is the translation. The part that says that is the mind settles easily is my explanation of what was going on. The word not having intention is the translation for the word apanidaya. Then you see that is, it means the mind settles easily, right? This is me interpreting from that word there. So here the Buddha asks, how is there development without direction? When you read the Buddha's words, you must read it very carefully. Not directing his mind outwardly, meaning he's not pushing it along any object. It is not that he is looking out and alert and staring at the world. It doesn't mean that. It means he's not taking another object other than what he's doing in meditation. No inspiring sign, so to speak. The bhikkhu understands my mind is apanidaya. Apanidaya, not directed. Then he understands. Now this is where, when we are reading his words, we've got to be very careful about the Pali words. Because if you look at the English word, unconstricted, it means not tight, loose. And then you happily go on with loose. But the Pali word is asankitang. And asankitang has a meaning, which I explain later. So here it says, it is asankitang. Before and after, and that's a literal translation. Pacha before, pure after. Actually, it means over a period of time. Okay? So it is asankitang. Over a period of time, it is asankitang, liberated, and apanihita. That's what the Buddha said. Over a period. So he sits there, he meditates, he becomes aware that after a while he notices that the mind is like that. That's what it means. He stares at the mind, and after a while, pachapure, after a while, he realizes that the mind is asankitang, liberated and undirected. Okay? This part you understand, huh? Then he further understands. Pajanati, knows clearly. The word pajanati means he knows it clearly. Huh? I dwell contemplating in the body. Contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, I am happy. You remember earlier on, devoid of, without covetousness and grief for the world. Because he does not have those, he's happy. This is what it means. Because he's not craving or wanting anything, he's happy. And he must know. What must he know? He knows that without covetousness, he has happiness. That's what he knows. Okay? And it goes on. Feeling, mind, and the ma. Okay, now to explain some words. Asankitang, in another sutta, Samyutta Nikaya, 51.20 analysis, the Buddha elaborated, and one of the things he said about sankitang was, sankitang means dullness and drowsiness. So, if you look at this and you put it up there, what it means is the monk who is the meditator who is meditating must know clearly that the mind is not drowsy, that it is light, and that it is, and now this word comes in, apanihita, there is no desire there. He's not driving it. This is a meditation where there is a clarity of mind, but he is not driving. It is as is. But he must know that the mind is as is. He must know that. He must know that it is not drowsy. It is not caught up. It is present. And it is as is, okay? So the mind settles down easily, neither distracted nor drowsy. And because of that, this part I must stress, because the mind, when the mind is present, and you know that it is present, people ask me, then what do I look at? It should automatically settle into 4 foundations of mindfulness. That's what it should do. So for those of you who meditate, go for retreat, and then you get to a state where the mind actually is present and steady, and it's very comfortable, what should it do? It will automatically, you should have it automatically look at form and mind. 4 foundations of mindfulness means form and mind. Later on, I will go into a bit more detail about this. For now, you just remember this. Huh? When the mind is in the state where it is without intention, so it's not directed, without intention, it is energetic, it's not drowsy, it is present, automatically goes into examining itself. The mind, the body and mind. Okay, 4 foundation mindfulness means the body and mind. Now, look at the question. I read to you, it is in this way, Ānanda, that there is development without direction. Thus, Ānanda, I have thought, development by direction, I have thought, development without direction, whatever should be done, Ānanda, by a compassionate teacher out of compassion for his disciples, desiring their welfare, that I have done for you. These are the feet of trees, those are the empty hearts. Meditate, Ānanda, do not be negligent lest you regret it later. This is our instruction to you. And Ānanda was very happy. Let me ask you, clearly the Buddha was encouraging him, right? But do you detect a note of exasperation? Do you detect that now? Do you detect that? Yeah, you do, right? My technical crew agrees. So then the question is this, why? Because all throughout, he seemed to be okay, right? Then last minute here, Buddha says those are the tree, the foot of the tree, those are the heart, you go meditate. If you read the Pali word, the exasperation is even more obvious. In English, it's polite. But in the Pali word, it's more obvious. So the question is, why? Did Ānanda do anything wrong? Now, y'all think about it. There is an answer. In fact, I'll give it to you. Why didn't he progress? Yes, something along that way. But why didn't he progress? He was looking at the wrong stuff. Yes, he was. What is it? What was? Sorry? Worrying about other things, yes, there's an element of that, but not quite that yet. First, just remember this particular sutta, and this is what you must do when you're looking at the suttas. When you look at, especially when you look at Samyutta Nikaya, which is also called kindred collection, connected discourses, yeah? That particular collection, when it's so thick, right? It's about this size. This a what? wait, I'll bring it out and show you. This is numerical. No, wrong one. This is numerical. No, this is middle length. This is the wrong one. Oh, yeah. This one. You can see how thick it is, right? Okay, anyhow, just to make it can stand on its own. So it's really big. Okay, Samyutta Nikaya, when you go through Samyutta Nikaya, do pay a little attention as to where a particular sutta is from. When I was asked to consider doing this sutta, like most people, I was fixated with directed, indirected meditation. And only when I started looking very closely, again, as I said, I've stared at this for 1 week, then it struck me that this particular sutta is found in the Satipatthana section. So the focus actually is not directed, indirected, it's Satipatthana. This is the Satipatthana collection. Satipatthana means the 4 foundations of mindfulness. It is those 4, kaya, body, vedana, feeling, citta, mind, dhamma, right? And so, actually, we have to go back and look at the 4 foundations, okay? And now my question for you is this. What is the purpose of the 4 foundations of mindfulness? What is the purpose of the 4 foundations of mindfulness? Many of you here had gone through this sutta, as I said, MN10, DN22, right? You have gone through it, I know, because I know of people who dissect the sutta word by word, tear it up into bits. Let me offer you a thought. Just think about it. Just think back at your own mind. We know that meditation is all about seeing the nature of the mind as is. So satipatthana, which is to train you to look inwards properly, must be to help you realize the nature of the mind as is. Agree? But you look at what Ānanda was doing with the nuns. They talk about loftier stages of distinction, which means that their meditation led them into some kind of jhāna. They go in and the mind rises. And he says, bravo! Then he went back, he told Buddha, their mind rose. And the Buddha said, yes, I know that. That happens. But did you see the other parts? So he was looking at the wrong thing. They were all looking at the wrong thing. They all look at satipatthana like it was to build concentration. But the intent is not about building concentration. That's a byproduct. When you focus the mind, when you put attention on any object, and your attention is sustained on that object, you will build concentration. But the end game, the purpose, is not to build concentration. The purpose is to build insight. So for them, I think, this is my theory. You agree that he got exasperated a little, right? The tone sounds a bit exasperated. I think it's because Ānanda with the nuns were all talking about loftier stages, which implies that they were concentrating well. And the Buddha said, you're missing the point. I think that was what happened. And so he reminded them, go back to the foundations of mindfulness. That's why he repeated that again, you see. He repeated that stanza on, you are to look at the body as is, see for yourself its true nature without being attached. That's the point. Without being attached so that you feel joy. The clue that you are unattached is when you look at it and there is this happiness that comes up as you stare at the form. Now I'm just using form, kaya, as is. I asked them to set up a table here. And I want to show you. So we're going to do a bit of drawing here, and you're going to find that I'm really quite good at drawing. Okay, so this is our proximate resemblance of a human, which is all of us, okay? Assuming that this is you, and we have a processing machinery in here, right? Somewhere in here, which is called the brain, right? And you will have all kinds of, when we talk about the aggregates, it's actually all here, including kaya. It's also there. So what do you have in here? You have feelings, right? You have perceiving, sanya. You have constructing, and you have consciousness, right? Experiencing, if you like. I'm using verb here, experiencing. Huh? Meaning to say it's the sum of all this. It's the sum of it all. You have this, right? You have this, okay? These are activities that's happening in your mind. Then you have external objects, which is the world. Loka, the world, right? Correct? much you know of the world, all that you know of the world goes through these guys. If you look at the regular mind, which is our mind, the normal person's mind, you tell me this. Are you more aware of this or this? You are more aware of this. You are barely aware of this. You know the world. You have an idea this is happening. I have feelings. I have thinking. I recognize things. So all the Pali words, these are the aggregates, by the way. So let's write them in Pali so I can show off a bit. Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara. Correct, huh? On top. Vijnana. Okay. Now, you have absolute idea to this. Whether it's external object, as in sight, sound, taste, touch, or thoughts. Thoughts. You are familiar with thoughts. But with regards to these guys, which is actually you, feeling, perception, construction, all this is you. You know it's happening, but you're not paying a lot of attention there. First, this part makes sense? Agree? You know this, right? Okay. Why is this dichotomy important? Because when you are doing satipatthana, you're not looking at this. You are looking at these. You are to become aware of these as anicca, dukkha, anatta. Anicca, transient. Temporary, always changing, unstable. It's this guy, not these guys. You are to know feeling is transient. You are to know perceiving is transient. And every time embedded in feeling and perceiving and thought constructing, embedded there is your craving. Your craving is not here. Your craving is here. Agree? And because your craving is here, they are anicca, temporary, impermanent. They are dukkha, because it's impermanent, but you don't want them to be impermanent, so you feel pain because you're clinging to them. And in all these experiences, it is anatta, not mine, no, not I, not self. It's all here. Satipatthana, the intent of that practice is for you to realize these guys. These guys, not these guys. It is to force us to realize that our mind is actually always caught up with these guys. We are caught up with someone growing old. We are not looking at the feeling and the perceiving of someone. It's perceiving that someone, not that someone. Do you see that difference? Because if you can see this difference, the lens will start to change. Okay? When we are talking about changing the lens through which we look at the world, the fixation of the world is always on this side. But what we want is to begin to understand the transient nature of all experiences, which is this side. And as you begin to see the transient nature, not here, but there, or the verb, I kept saying, look at the verb, the things that are changing. And as you begin to perceive these things as changing, you may then one day realize that everything you experience as dukkha is all here. Your clinging is all here. Why is this important? Because dukkha is also in your mind. You perceive and you cling to your perception. If you can perceive, you can unperceive. If you can cling, you can uncling. It's all in your mind. Do you understand that? Yes. Okay. So this is the purpose of 4 foundations of mindfulness. The purpose of the practice is for you to see all the verb. Feeling, perception, volitional thought formation, the experiences. Now, then you say, form is a noun. Yes, form is a noun, but your form has meaning to you only because of your feeling and your perception. If you don't perceive it, if you don't say this is my form, would you be attached to it? This is the form of somebody I love. Then you are attached to it. So even when it comes to form, it boils down to what you see, how you perceive, what you conclude. Everything boils down to there. So the realization that all these aggregates are conditionally a reason, and conditionally they keep changing, they keep fading away, right? Knowing all these things then make you realize and see for yourself the nature of the mind as is. The nature of the mind is this nature, the nature of the mind as is, not the nature of the world as is. Okay? Now, how does effortless, unrelenting mindfulness of the 4 foundations of establishment cause the shift in reality? How does that happen? Because if you keep staring at feeling and perception and feeling and perception, you will one day realize that feeling is just, because feeling and perception, they are not separate, they're together. Thinking also together, the whole thing all lumped together. But you can actually peel them apart. You can detach feeling, and you can say this is feeling and that is perception, even though they are 2 sides of the same, a different same coin. It's just an expression, but the idea here is they are like that. But you're actually looking at this side and you're looking at this side. It's just like that. It's a state of mind. Feeling, perception, thinking, they're all states of mind. And if in all these states of mind, you don't see a self that joins all of them together, they are all conditionally a reason, then there is no you. There is just all these conditionally a reason episodes which you can drive, which you can still drive. You can still poke and choose. But then you will feel the consequences. The moment it comes out, you feel it. So example, you miss somebody. To miss somebody, that somebody must register as a memory. Yes? Yes? If you lose your memory, you don't remember the fellow, you will not miss the person. So it must first register as a memory. A memory is perception. You bring up that memory, the feeling comes associated with it. Agree? So you must first remember. So perception must take place. Perception takes place, feeling follows. It's together. You see that? If you realize that you yourself are the one who have been stirring them up on your own, then you say, oh, it is a memory bit. I will let the memory bit be. I don't look at the memory bit. Then you don't look, you don't feel, you don't remember. The episode of this person fades. So it is actually always ourselves that revisit, you see. We keep taking it up. And when you take something up, it's perception, feeling, thought construction, consciousness. It's just like that. It comes together. It lights up and you have an experience. It dims in there and the experience fades. But who kept digging it up? Self. I mean, you. But why did you keep digging it up? The question is, why did you keep digging it up? Because of ignorance and craving. You see that? So, here I said, if you are able to sustain mindfulness in looking at these feeling, perception, you keep seeing them as, it's a feeling, it's a perception, it's a conscious, you keep seeing them as bits. You recognize them as bits. You will then start to become dispassionate or disenchanted with them, and then dispassionate. When you keep seeing something as bits, after a while, you don't see the whole. There's nothing for you to cling. Get it? Okay. So, the practice and the path is like this. Practice requires you to constantly remember the teaching. All of the aggregates. Now we talk about the DHAMMA, right? 4 foundations of mindfulness. The last one is DHAMMA. I show you how they connect. The regular human being, the regular human, clings to things, gets attached, gets caught up. That is why nivaranas are habits of the mind and they come on strong. Nivaranas, the hindrances. And the hindrances, the 5 of them, if you look at your 5 hindrances, you have kamachanda, which is attachment to sensual experiences, sense-based experiences, right? The second one is anger. When you have attachment to sense-based experiences, of course you have anger. As long as there is craving, there is anger. The mind gets no stimulation, it gets tired and bored. So, tina, the drowsiness, dullness. The mind gets overly stimulated. It's very happy, but it gets very restless and it always looks for stimulation. So, restlessness and worry. It goes round and round the things that it wants. And then when you have all these experiences, you keep wondering, is this correct? Should it be like that? Maybe it should be like that. Why do you have this problem of doubt? They call it vicikicca, doubt. Actually, the reason is because our mind gets caught up. It has all this wanting. It wants what you call in Singaporean lingo, kiasu kiasi. What does it mean by kiasu kiasi? If you want something and you really want something, of course you hope to get the best bargain, right? If you have the best bargain, there is a part in you that wonders whether it should be like that or should be it like that. Is this the best deal? Should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? So the mind is constantly looking for the best outcome for itself. Therefore, you will have your vicikicca, that doubt element. They are all connected. This talks about the regular mind. And what the Buddha wanted us to do is when you stare at your own mind, see for yourself how the mind keeps getting drawn into unwholesome states because it is fixated about the world. Its fixation about the world makes it keep going out to look for things and hunt for things. And it is not looking at itself, it keeps looking at what's out there. So when you do Satipatthana properly and you become aware of mind's nature, you will then see the mind's bad habits, the nivaranas. The first thing you have to catch, and all the schools talk about that one. Once you are able to understand that well enough, you must also learn to recognize the other half. There are the mental states that obstruct practice, and there are the mental states that gives the practice this oomph. That's how the bojjhangas appear. The bojjhangas are the mental states that will help you to push understanding forward. Nivaranas are the mental states that drag down your understanding. These two are the key elements that you, in your practice, must become very aware of. That is why Ajahn Jayasaro talks about, in our practice, a key element is knowing wholesome and unwholesome. Those are the two. You know the wholesome, you can progress. If you are fixated and you're caught up, trapped in the unwholesome, you get dragged down. That's how it goes. Okay? And all these appears in your aggregates. That's how the aggregates come about. Learn to recognize the aggregates. Six sense basis aggregates, same idea. Okay? Two sides of the same coin. And finally, in all of these experiences, see for yourself our fixation with pleasure, our aversion to pain, the constant habit of the mind to choose on one side but not the other. We choose pleasure, not pain. We're very wary of pain. We're very wary of anything that is not remotely pleasant. Very wary. That heightened state causes stress. If you are always mindful of the aggregates, remember the other side of the house, the feeling, the perception, the aggregates means feeling, perception, volitional formation, and consciousness, plus the fifth part. If you're always looking at that part, then the mind learns to see that all these pleasure and pleasure, they all come and go anyway. The external objects, no big deal, because it's your own personal sensations to them, reaction to them, that caused you to react in the way that we do. Okay? So, practice means constantly being mindful, build your mindfulness, build your awareness, see how the mind keeps build the mindfulness so that it can look at the nature of the mind as is properly, and you can do that, it becomes a path. Practice and path are two different things. Practice is constantly doing something correctly in the right way consistently. You do that long enough, consistently enough, the path becomes obvious. You do not practice, there is no path. Okay? What's the difference? The path, you see, when you travel on a journey, along the journey, you will see the milestones, you will see landscapes, you learn to identify features. That's when you are on the path. Get it? So when you start on the practice, you're going to Ang Mo Kio from here, you have to travel, I don't know how, which AYE, don't know what, PIE, one of those things, or CTE. Yeah? You pick the wrong one, you're not going in the direction of Ang Mo Kio, right? It has to be, you choose to go somewhere, you pick the right route, and as you travel on that road, you will recognize the features. Buddhist Dhamma has both. Tells you what you're supposed to do, guide you on what you will see, and eventually at the end of the game, at the end of this whole training process, he tells you what it should look like. He told you the whole thing. He told you the practice, he told you the path, he tells you what's the destination. We have everything from him. Okay? So from one sutta, directed, undirected, comes this whole explanation. Okay? We'll take question.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for the explanation, Sister Sylvia. Any questions from the few on the floor?
Hey, no question today.
Sis Sylvia, sorry. Thank you for the fantastic talk. May I ask one question, please?
Please.
I think seems like a silly question, so I apologize. The idea of the inspiring sign or the inspiring theme that you direct your mind to, can I interpret that as breathing as well, so that I use my vitakka, my vichara to focus on the inspiring theme, and then I let go of the vitakka and vichara and let go of the inspiring theme, then my mind goes back to the citta part, the undirected meditation part. Can I interpret the sutta in this way? Thank you, Sis Sylvia.
You're saying that you're using anapanasati as the theme, the nimitta. You see, if anapanasati had been a helpful theme for you, you wouldn't be thinking about looking for an inspiring theme. The point about this thing, inspiring theme, means the mind can't settle. So if you choose as your object of focus breathing, and the mind can't settle, it means you cannot tell yourself, let's just stay on this breathing and let's talk our way into settling. It wouldn't work. You can don't choose Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha or the path, because that one I took from another sutta, Apasada Sutta. You can pick, for instance, if metta comes very easily for you, metta, then use metta as your theme of inspiration then. Or if, let's say, by nature you are very compassionate as an individual, and you perceive that if you understand the Dhamma, you believe you will go out and help a lot of people, and as you think about it, but you see, when you think, your mind cannot drift. You must maintain that awareness. I am thinking like this. This is my thought. I know what I am doing. I am trying to bring out in me the sense of joy, pasad, patmoja, and piti, and sukha. You say, I am going to bring out all these elements of joy. So your mind cannot drift as you talk. Because when you drift, it is no longer directed meditation. Directed means with intention and clarity, you talk your way, you construct your way into joy. So the way that I did it earlier, by giving you this carefully crafted words that for some of you, you may feel very inspired and joyous, that's directed, okay? And if you are directing to a point where the mind settles, and then it kind of feel comfortable just settled there, at that point, it's still not undirecting yet. You think that, oh, now my mind has settled, it is called undirecting meditation. No. Undirecting is when, after a while, remember the Buddha said, Pacchapure? Yes. It has to be duration. There has to be a duration when the mind is present, the awareness, the mindfulness is clear and it's present, and it's effortlessly present. And there is this sense of lightness and joy and alert, because it cannot be constricted, so it is alert and it's clear and it has mindfulness. After a while, when you are not driving this mind around, then the mind has reached a level of undirected meditation. Okay?
Okay, we have one question here. When piti arises, is it normal for one to tear or...
Tear? Yes, possible, depending on how
happy
emotional you are. Sometimes the piti comes on so strong and you are feeling so joyous and you are rocking with joy and Then you say, I am so grateful to the Buddha, and then you go, ooh, where, the tears roll. Possible. But it shouldn't be so emotional because it should settle. As you just watch it very quietly, it will settle into a peaceful contentment. Okay?
Next question. Namo Buddhaya, Sister Sylvia. What about the pala in regards to magga? When the practice bring out the path, magga will be the fruits. Does pala follow immediately or still take some time?
Magga and pala, we're talking about entering stream first, and
The
then
fruits.
you continue. So magga is path and pala is fruits. No, it doesn't have to happen immediately or consecutively. And the reason is because in some of the suttas, the Buddha had actually talked about how the complete journey can happen for say someone has entered the stream as a path. It may take until his deathbed before he tastes the fruit of that at realization. And the fact that it can happen over a period of time tells you it's not immediate.
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. There's another question. Can you kindly explain between watching body formation and mental formation in meditation? Please give some examples.
When you are looking at breathing and you see the form arising, because as you breathe in and out, I know people tell me, I've heard before that some people will say that, oh, but my breath becomes so subtle that I don't feel the breathing anymore. And I said, yes, but you can actually discern at the back of the mind a certain rhythm. It's a certain rhythm. If you do not discern that rhythm of rising, falling, it means your mindfulness is not sharp enough. When the mindfulness is very sharp, even when it is very subtle, you can discern that rhythm, okay? Okay, so when you're looking at a form-based activity, that is bodily formation. So breathing, it's a bodily formation. But if let's say the mind, you observe the mind, observing breathing, observing the mind, and the mind, oh, actually now I'm looking at the mind. There's a breathing going on in the background, but now I'm looking at the mind. Then you have gone into mind, mental, okay? If in this mind state, there is willing, you are willing. W-I-L-L-I-N-G.
Yes.
Willing, right?
Yes. Intently.
When there is willing going on, you have mental formation. Okay? When you have willing going on, you have mental formation.
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. Now the questions are pouring in. I have an inquiry. How do we meditate or overcome the stressful feelings while I'm at work or doing projects? I guess work stress.
If you are having work stress, you can't be meditating. If you're experiencing work stress, by its very state of experiencing stress, work stress, you are not meditating. Meditating, okay, now I haven't been talking very much about this meditation as such. Meaning to say, I didn't sit down and dissect the word meditation and help you to understand exactly what we are dealing with here, right? We're using an English word laden with meaning and everyone having their own ideas about what meditation is, okay? I want to correct that slightly. When we say in the Buddha's words, samādhi. Samādhi. I don't want to use the English words because English words have your own meaning and all. I will use the Buddha's word samādhi. Buddha's word samādhi, which we call concentration, or I don't know, is that the best? Concentration is usually the best translation, right?
Or stillness.
Stillness.
Chinese.
Okay.
As well as
different
other.
degree of stillness. Okay. Different degree of stillness. There is one at the level where you say that it qualifies as samadhi. At the level, meaning at the mildest, the weakest stillness. At the level where you say it qualifies as samadhi, must be a point where the mind doesn't drift. You are very aware that you have thinking, but it is leashed thinking. If you heard enough of my talk, you'll recognize this expression. It means a form of thinking that is not caught up with object, but you're very clear of being aware that you are thinking. You construct in a manner where you never lose sight of constructing and get caught up in object. There are two parts. There is the construction going on, and there is the thought, the idea, the narrative. Sometimes you get into the narrative and you fly, but you are no longer aware of the constructive intention. Sometimes you have the narrative going on, but it doesn't fly fast because you're very mindful, carefully, as you talk, you do it slowly, and you follow the intention as you go along. Those are two different types of activities. Agree? The first one, where you have intention and you have awareness and you do not get carried away, the layman term of being carried away by your thoughts, but every step of this constructing, you are mindful, you are alert. That one belongs to the samadhi part of the house. This is the vitakka vichara, okay? The moment you lose track of intention and the thought takes on a life of its own and the narrative runs by itself, you are no longer having vitakka vichara, you are not in samadhi. You are in happy volitional formation, which is Shankara. They're not the same, okay? So if you say that, how do I ensure a certain level of mental balance at work when stressed, then the question is, are you able to recall awareness present? If you can be aware of the mental states that surface, and you can recognize this is wholesome, this is unwholesome, and you can deliberately choose wholesome, not unwholesome. You can pull handbrake. Then you're going at gear 2 or 1. When you're driving gear 1 and 2, I know this is ancient driving, right? Because these days it's just automatic and you fly. But ancient driving, you have gear 1, gear 2. I'm talking to older folks here. Your gear 1, gear 2 driving means you are holding, there is some restraint in the speed at which your mind flies. Then you have a chance of holding on to mindfulness and therefore some degree of samadhi. It is your vitakka vichara part of the house. But when you fly and you start running and you are reacting if you're not aware of wholesome, unwholesomeness, it is just everything all gobbled like a rojak, right? There is no samadhi. This is where you are flying already. You are caught up, and you will lose your noble intent. Okay? So this, for this individual, if you say, can it be done? Yes, but only where you can maintain clear mindfulness.
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. These days, because of COVID, I become very bored, ending up doing more akusala than kusala. How should I deal with my boredom more skillfully? The wholesome and the unwholesome.
I wouldn't say deal with boredom skillfully. I can say deal with the mind skillfully. Boredom means the mind seeks stimulation and the mind is now experiencing something called uddhacca, which is restlessness. And you don't want, uddhacca is just a mental state. It's a mental state that arises, okay? So if you don't want uddhacca to arise, what you do is you feed the mind. You feed the mind with the correct nutriment, then that period is wholesome. So what do I mean by correct nutriment? You can look for suttas, teachings of the teaching of Buddha, or if you have, and this is where I think people will find this good, you go find good, wholesome friends, Dhamma friends, that when you come together, you will end up just sharing Dhamma practices. For lay people, good Dhamma friends are very important. So you arrange on Zoom 20 minutes of Dhamma bites. It's free, right? 20 minutes. So, if you don't pay for it, 40 minutes. 40 minutes of wholesome Dhamma bites. You go talk, because lay people, I mean, if you're not a practitioner, let's just say not lay people, just normal human, not a practitioner, it's very hard to sustain interest in reading sutta, especially when you don't know what's going on, right? So you can read my book, Between the Lines, very entertaining. Or you can go read books, which are Dhamma books, which are entertaining. There are good Dhamma books, okay? Yeah. But also find wholesome friends who are practicing like yourself with you. And you say, I don't have, fine. You can go on Buddhist Fellowship. Buddhist Fellowship has many Dhamma practitioners here at different levels of practice, but all dedicated and all very interested. You can write in, Jenny? Write in to Jenny and seek a dating service of sort. Dhamma Fellowship dating services. Yeah, BF will come up with something. Something like that. No, jokes aside, because what stimulates us? When you are a non-practitioner or you are very new to the practice, you will still be stimulated by the same thing, which is external stimulation, whether it is engagements, talking to people, or watching something, or reading books, or reading books, not playing games, but reading books, and you continue to look for the wholesome outlet in these areas. And there are many good talks online. And some of the teachers, I've seen some of the really good speakers. Now, online, it's like a proliferation of Dhamma teachings online these days. So you can do that. Go and make it your mission in life to nail down a list of good speakers, and you go and watch these things and share with your friends, okay?
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. Another question, is it a must that joy and rapture be experienced before stillness sets in?
The word is not must or must not. The word is conditional, meaning to say, the more joyous, the lighter you are, the stronger, the stiller you will be. Now, today's talk did not highlight one point, which was highlighted last week, and that's wholesomeness. Because everyone that the Buddha was talking about, the Bhikkhuni, Ānanda, they were all wholesome people. He didn't have to start with base zero. But for lay people, for many of us living our regular life, we can sometimes get very caught up by things we like, don't like, and so we become unwholesome in our reaction. So we find that we are always very agitated or very stressed, or we have a lot of angst. All those mental states are obstacle to practice. Then you say, then how? Then you must introduce wholesome mental states. And wholesome mental states means you have to bring out metta. Make it a point to, every time you open the door and you step out of your house, you smile at the flower, at the insects, at the world. I'm serious. You must make the mind as light as possible. Don't just smile to human. Smile to everything. As light as possible. You smile, you wish beings well, you try and see something positive around you all the time. Even when you are confronted with something unpleasant and you feel that it should not be like this, like that, see if you can find a positive angle. If you can keep the mind as light, as wholesome as possible, even under trying circumstances, then you are doing well. You should be successfully laying the foundations of an easier practice. Now, many of us will say, we're not bad people, Ma. We don't kill, we don't steal, we don't lie, we're not bad people. Seriously, if this is your baseline, right, this is not very good, you know, because killing, stealing, and lying are very bad marks. But do you snap? Do you get jealous? Do you resent? Are you picky? Are you the sort that, are you judging? Those mental states are unwholesome and they can trip you in your practice. So I've seen many people, sharing my own personal experience. When I first stumbled upon this some years back, I realized the critical importance of wholesomeness in our practice, right? When I first stumbled upon it, was as a foundation for meditation. I did a survey. I went around my bunch of friends, which is actually quite a lot of people. I went around asking everyone, the ones I knew who had no problems meditating, and the ones who will like wail and groan every time they have to meditate. And I'm telling you, empirically, the ones who were able to meditate are the ones who present the least trouble to the world. They have very few complaints, if any. They have a smile that's plastered on their face most of the time. And if you look at them, you want to sit next to them because no harm will come to you. And those are the ones that have the least problem meditating. The ones who struggle a lot, especially the ones whose mind runs very fast, they think a lot, right? They're not bad people. I mean, they are not your serial killer or your what do you call that? The ones who steal. Not the kleptomanias, you know. And they're not like that. They're nice people, good people, but very naggy and picky, and sometimes they are also the first to write a complaint letter. So the more picky and naggy they are, the more easily riled up they are, the harder it is for the mind to settle, because the mind has to slit through entire layers of agitation to get to peace, you see. Think of it like this. Think of it like sediments. In order to be still, your sediment has to settle, ma. So if you spend all your time getting agitated, right, you basically are the serial dumper. You keep dumping sand into the lake. And so the lake cannot settle. Okay?
Thank you. When meditating, I feel I have mindfulness, but seems not enough concentration. How do I increase the level of concentration? Thank you, Sis Sylvia, for the Dhamma sharing.
You see, if you say that you have mindfulness, mindfulness is an expression, it's actually one of the mental states associated with meditation, samādhi. At the highest level of stillness, mindfulness is perfect. Perfect equanimity, perfect mindfulness. It said that equanimity, perfect equanimity. In fact, there are only two mental states in that perfection. In the fourth jhana, there are only two mental states, right? Equanimity and mindfulness. And in that state, mindfulness is like a piece of glass. What does it mean by mindfulness is like a piece of glass? It is not, your mindfulness is so sharp, it is not stained by the regular mind's habit. You may not realize that our mind is very talkative and very judging. It has a filter. In that sense, the mind has a stain. It's a prejudice. Your mind has a prejudice as a filter. So some things you pay attention to, some things you don't, you're not interested, and so on and so forth. Mindfulness at the fourth jhana is so pure that it has no prejudice. It has zilch filter. It is so clean. So if you say that you have mindfulness, but not enough concentration, actually what you mean is, the mindfulness is not sharp enough. Because if it were sharp enough, the stillness will follow. The guy comes together, okay?
Thank you, Sis Sylvia.
Sorry, how do you ensure it to be sharper? Be happy. Be light. Think of some words that bring up in you the joy. It can be unique to yourself. Some of these words can be quite unique to yourself. And if it's unique to you, only you will know what it feels like and how you relate to it. No? Okay?
Thank you. How are the three major components of sati, samadhi, and sampajanya related to heightened levels of mindfulness? Please give some examples or similes.
Excuse me? Sorry, sati?
How are the three major components of sati, samadhi, and sampajanya?
Where did this come from?
No, all the questions from Facebook.
I know. Sati, samadhi, and sampajanya.
Should be just panya.
You're talking about the different mental states, is it? How are they different from each other?
How is it related to the heightened mindfulness?
Sampajanya is not one of the jhanic factors. I'm not sure what. Okay, when you are practicing, when you're training the mind to be observing the correct aspects, you know you are doing the right thing if in your observation, you know what's going on. You know what you're doing. I'm saying this very loosely, but the ones sitting here are nodding their head because you know what I mean, right? Basically, if you know what you are doing and you are confident that you are on the right track, that confidence, that clarity in itself is a reflection of sampajana. It's a reflection of it. Okay. Then someone might turn around and say, but what if the person is wrong in what it is doing? Okay, if the person is wrong, so he had a wrong guidance. Someone taught him wrongly. But does he have that, when he's observing the mind, does he know that he is observing this is mind and this is not form or something? Does he know what is the object he's looking at? Yes. Does he know that in looking at this object, he should be looking at the change, the craving there, devoid of craving and agitation, that craving? Does he know that as he is observing, he's seeing conditional arisings? And if the answer is no, he doesn't know any of them, in which case there is no sampajana. Sampajana means knowing clearly in such a way that deepens his understanding of the mind's working. If he looks at if he observes the phenomenal, but he really doesn't understand what's going on, he doesn't know what will come on next, he's a bit confused as to should he be looking at this or should he be looking at that. When there is this confusion, there is no sampajana. Sampajana requires understanding of what he's seeing and having this contentment and this assurance as he observes. He is not lost. He's not worried about being lost. He knows exactly what he's doing. Okay?
Thank you, Sister Sylvia.
This part is actually not easy. You come for a retreat. We organize a retreat. Then I'll tell you whether or not it's heading in the right direction.
Sister Sylvia, how does the mind feel like when it becomes concentrated?
My reply to you is, how does your mind feel like? According to the teaching on the jhana, let's go back to the teaching, right? As the jhanic factors start to arise, you will find that your attention on whatever you're looking at, the attention level increases. There is a clarity, meaning you observe and you remember. So that's mindfulness. And you are not talking. There is no drifting of mind. There is just accepting that you are present. So if you're asking me, will energy build up? Sometimes people say, oh, I can feel that there is energy. I tell you what, you will, initial period, for sure you will feel that the form is rock steady. The form. If your concentration is such that you actually don't see the form very much, the concentration is not strong. That's why you look at the words that the Buddha say, he talks about ease in the body. For sure, you will be very clear that there is this presentness of the form. And the form is very comfortable. Okay? So if you tell me, oh, my head feels very heavy and very tired, what about the form? Did you feel anything about the form? Not really. Go back and do it again. As the concentration builds, one of the things that is very obvious is actually the form. This steadiness of the form.
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. We'll just take a last couple of questions. Please don't send in anymore. It's always the last one. Yeah, it's people who are sending. Is it necessary to attain jhanas before we start contemplating?
You start, if your mind is, don't worry about the jhana and all. I will advise, I will give my advice like this, but it's actually more because it's my own experience. When you begin to observe that the mind, the present, the mindfulness, the awareness, the clarity is there, and you find that your mind doesn't drift, it's very happy being present, and when you observe the activities, the mental activities, you are aware that there is no craving, no chasing. You are an unbiased, uncritical, real-time observer, and you can do that. That's good enough. Just stay like that. Whether or not this amounts to the jhana as described by the Buddha, a day will come when you become very familiar with this level of observation, and you are clear enough to be able to start spotting mental states. You can do that. You can spot the mental states, the jhanic factors. You know that this mind will just stay like this for as long as you want it to stay like this. The odds are that's jhana. But if you have in you this wondering if this is jhana, but you cannot be sure what the mental states are, the odds are it is not jhana. Jhana, when this jhanic state really, to me, it's just a word. But what is important is what can you do with the clarity of mind. If the mind is quiet and present, I repeat, it's present, it's somewhat still, it doesn't drift very much, you don't lose yourself, you are present and it doesn't lose, and then you become aware that you're present again, and then you lose, and then you become aware. That means it's going to be a struggle to observe the mind. If you are present, but it doesn't disappear, it stays present. Your little boy doesn't run off and play, it's always present. After a while, you start observing a sense of ease, comfort, and you don't mind just sitting like that for as long as it takes. You have nowhere to go, and you're quite happy, you're quite content being there. This is it. This you can use. This is where you comfortably, then you ask yourself, feeling, perception, thought formation, form. Observe these 5 aggregates. Because if you look at Satipatthana, right, Nivaranas. So go back and look at it, Nivaranas. 6 sense bases, aggregates, bojjhangas. These are the mental states. If you begin to be able to identify them by the block, you know your observation is strong. If you hit and miss, I see this, I think this is piti. Then you wait. Then nothing else happens. You know what? Maybe it is. Maybe it is not. But your mind is unable to discern. Then don't discern all that way. Look at form there. Go down to the form, to the feelings, to the mind. Okay? I know that there is a lot of curiosity about meditation, and maybe when COVID is over, for a face-to-face kind of session, then we can guide face-to-face. It is very difficult to try and answer a question without context. So questions are coming at me with no context. I don't know where the individual, the person asking the question, I don't know where he stands with practice, with understanding, what kind of training he has gone through. You see, this is where it's tricky. Some people, and I've been told this, an individual, for the first time, he goes to a monastery. This is his first retreat. He sits without expectation, the mind goes still. And then when he comes out, darkness already. What just happened? Jhana, lor. Then he spent the next 10 years looking for jhana. So you have someone with no training can do it. Then after you train a fellow can't do it. Why like that? Because abhijja domanassa has appeared. I want something, I want it bad. I want it so bad, the mind cannot steal. Then it won't work. If you want the jhana and all to start to surface, first to do, drop the idea of the jhana, focus on the wholesomeness. Focus on making the mind as pure and as light, as kind, as wholesome, as gentle. And the Buddha used the word content and humble, humility. If you keep the mind to this level of softness and calmness, you will find that it doesn't drift. It wants to hang around because this is such a nice mind to hang around. Okay?
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. Does jhana involve pushing of the mind, and can one move up and down jhana 1, 2, and 3, and 4 at will?
If the individual is an extremely skillful person, practitioner, and he is by instinct, by habit, very soft, very gentle, then the mind rests easily with the mental states of equanimity and mindfulness. This individual can go up and down wherever he wants, but most people, when they are practicing, they are nowhere near this. So if you are practicing and you are just training the mind and calming the mind down, it gets very tricky because the moment you say, let's push it up, let's do something, right? And if you're not skillful, that wanting to do something will actually cause the house of cards to collapse. It can happen like this. You can make an aspiration, meaning to say, if the conditions are right enough, let them calm down, or let them. So you are saying, I am not willing. Willing won't work. I am consciously laying the condition, and then whatever happens, happens. Then it will happen by themselves. Okay?
We'll do this last question. Dear Sister Sylvia, although I am not tired, but when I meditate, I'm very sleepy. How do I overcome this?
You're not happy enough. Really, you see, if you meditate and you find that you get sleepy, could be one of the following. Number one, your form actually is tired. If your form really is tired, if you don't rest it, then you will find that the moment it gets somewhat quiet, you will sleep. Okay? That's one. So what do? Sleep first, then meditate. Just don't sleep too long. Give yourself 10 minutes power nap. Okay? Second, your body is unwell. So if the body is unwell, trying to... But if you are very solid, if let's say you are a very experienced meditator and you're by nature very soft, very gentle, very happy, then even when the body is sick, the mind knows how to do what it has to do. But if you are saying, I'm very new to this, and I am still practicing, then I'm assuming that it's hit and miss. So if you are hit and miss, the chances are the conditions of the mind are not ready, not soft enough, not gentle enough, don't have enough of the powerful, wholesome mental states, in which case, trying to meditate with a sick body is going to make it, it's not going to work. The mind will try, and then the body feels the pain. Remember that 3 parts? Body dis-ease, body uncomfortable. You're already topple over that point. Okay, so that's the second one, sick. The third one is not enough wholesome mental states. Not soft, not kind, not gentle. So for those of you who are very keen on meditation and you really want to experience what it feels like for the mind to be able to go quite still, my advice to you is really, really strengthen the metta. Really, really pipe down the judging, the critical nature of our mind. The more you talk about other people, the more agitated it will be, the harder it will be to go quiet. So really go quiet. If you have less worry, you have greater acceptance, you have strong contentment, meditation is a breeze. And you say, I have all of the above. My friends also say I have all of the above. I have a lot of friends and they all love me very much, but still I cannot meditate. You come and see me. Go and look for Jenny and then we will talk at length. We will find out what is wrong, okay?
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. We'll end on a thank you note from a Dhamma brother. Before we do the ingratitude, this brother said, thank you, Sis Sylvia and BF, for an inspiring talk. What an appropriate lecture to end the special Saturday series. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, today we're going to do two things. One is a regular feature here where we talk about giving back for what we have received. And I would like to invite everyone who has benefited to reflect on the words here. If you had experienced joy listening to the Dhamma, do consider honoring our teacher by putting into practice his first teaching to the lay community. Be chaga. Be chaga doesn't mean just donating money. I want to stress this. Chaga means being generous. Generous with time, with energy, with service. Giving, forgiving, loving, and all these are part of being chaga, okay? I stress also that we must all never take for granted the blessings that we have enjoyed in this life, as others before us had done it right by us. We must continue to do it right for others who come after. May the Dhamma last long. May we continue to enjoy supportive conditions for learning and practice. And may we never deviate from the true teaching as long as life lasts. And for all our Dhamma friends here and in wherever you are, may we all continue to have good Dhamma friends and Dhamma benefactors to help us in our journey. When you feel really joyous, if you feel really joyous, I would like to invite all of you to join me in sharing merits to one individual here, Madam Tan Swee Kiao, beloved mother of Brother Alvin Chua, and also for all of you, recall your own loved ones, departed loved ones, parents, children, siblings, relatives, friends, people whose path we have crossed. Today, this period is 7th month. We'd like to invite everyone that we can remember to come partake in the merits here. Okay?
Okay, before we end the service, let us dedicate our merits to all sentient beings. Ittavata cha amhehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya Ettavata cha amhehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya ettavata cha amhehi sambatam punya sampadam sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Let us share our merits with our departed relatives and friends. Idam me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idam me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idam me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Closing homage, let us pay respects to the Triple Gem. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamman Namasami. Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.